Good evening. I have the pleasure of opening tonight's festivities. My name is Sherry Frost, and I proudly represent the good people of Dover's Ward 4 in the New Hampshire House. Mindi was one of the first people I met in Concord, and from that moment, I knew she'd be an inspiration to me. She is forthright, fearless, and deeply compassionate. She's not afraid to speak her truth, which is a trait that she and I share. I've watched her as she stood up not just for her constituents, but for everyone in New Hampshire. I live in Dover, and I've been grateful to Mindi for fighting for water quality not only in Ryan-Hampton, but in my neighborhood too. Mindi cooperates where she can, but she holds fast where she must, pushing back against any effort to demean, diminish, or dismiss the things she knows are too important to compromise on. It's been my singular privilege to serve in the House with Mindi, and I asked her for an opportunity to speak to you briefly tonight about why, this early in the process, I'm pledging my full and enthusiastic support for her candidacy for the U.S. House of Representatives. Representatives. Here in the U.S., we're a constitutional republic. That's a state in which the head of state and other officials are representatives of the people and must govern within an existing constitution. Representatives of the people. Representatives. Remember that word. I'm trained as an educator, an English teacher specifically, and one of my particular competencies is in research, so I did a little digging today. The average age of the members of the House of Representatives is just under 58 years old. That's the highest average age compared to any other Congress in recent history. In the House of Representatives, business is dominant prior occupation, followed by public service, politics, and finally law. I'm reminded of the Neil deGrasse Tyson quote, excuse me, when he asked, "What professions do all these senators and congressmen have? Law, law, law. Law, law, business. Law, law, law. Where are the scientists? Where are the engineers? Where's the rest of life?" Well, there are 11 physicians, 4 dentists, and 3 veterinarians in the House. There's 1 physicist, 1 microbiologist, and 1 chemist in the House. There are only 88 women in a body of 435. The latest batch of data shows that the 113th Congress, that's 2 Congresses ago, had a median net worth of $1,008,776. That's the first time in history that the majority of members were millionaires. One can only imagine that dollar figure has risen in the last couple of years. I'm not sure who these people represent. Go back to that word, representative. You can only be properly represented by people who, at the very least, have some experience that's similar to yours. People who understand the frustration of looking for meaningful work that pays enough to keep the lights on. People who understand what it means to have to choose between keeping your job or caring for a sick child or an aging parent. People who stare at the ceiling at night, unable to sleep, worried about putting your kids through college. That would be me. Mindi cares about the things that we care about. We all know that she's been a fierce warrior woman on environmental issues, but do you know that Mindi believes healthcare is a human right and that she's wholly behind getting us universal healthcare? Do you know that she understands that a strong public education system is the backbone of a healthy democracy and that she's committed to ensuring free and wholly accessible pre-K to college education for everyone? Did you know that Mindi believes that no one deserves to live in poverty and that she supports a living wage and employment and retirement security for everyone? I'm excited that Mindi is running to succeed Carol Shea Porter in the House. I truly believe that she'll continue to improve on Carol's legacy. Mindi will bring her commitment to progressive values, her compassionate leadership, and her fierce advocacy to Washington. When I vote for Mindi, I'll be voting for someone who I know represents me. And that's why, this early in the process, I'm wholeheartedly endorsing Mindi for Congress.
What she said. My name is Deb White. I've worked with Mindi for a very long time, and I agree with everything that was just said. I have been asked to channel Jeff Barnum tonight because he has had knee surgery, and I know Jeff as the Great Bay Piscataqua water keeper, and also as chairman of the Coastal Conservation Association of New Hampshire Board of Directors. I've worked with Jeff. He is one of a kind and a very astute and genuine representative of the public, as is Mindi. Here are Jeff's words. Impressive was the very first word that came to mind when I met Mindi. I was struck by how incredibly smart she is on so many issues. Real leaders are inclusive, strategic thinkers willing to take suggestions. This describes Mindi. Mindi and I, along with others who she invited to the table, collaborated on the PFC dilemma at Coakley and Pease, and Jeff's being politically correct here by calling it a dilemma. She does not just talk about action. Mindi does the research and then fearlessly takes an unequivocal and very public stand. Combine these traits with high energy and tenacity and an earnest drive to serve all people, not just political parties. You have the ingredients of an exceptional congresswoman. All of us need to make the sacrifices to make her candidacy a reality. This is her time. Mindi is our good fortune. Jeff Barnum.
Good evening. My name is Jillian Lane, and I am honored to be introducing a woman who has profoundly impacted not only my life personally, but also our greater Seacoast community and ultimately our beautiful state of New Hampshire. Almost 2 years ago now, I woke up to the nightmare of a contaminated toxic waste site in my backyard. At the same time, our entire Seacoast community was faced with the difficult reality that our own New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services had detected a statistically significant pediatric cancer cluster in 5 towns on our Seacoast. As we collectively tried to get our arms, our hearts, and our minds wrapped around this tragedy, Mindi Messmer was taking immediate action to tackle this extensive problem. As an accomplished hydrogeologist with over 27 years of experience in hazardous waste site investigation, site remediation, and environmental engineering, Mindi was selected to serve on former Governor Hassan's Pediatric Cancer Cluster Task Force. Instantly, this dedicated group identified several threats to the environmental health of the Seacoast, one of which was Coakley Dump, situated less than a mile from my home. Mindi was selected to chair the subcommittee to investigate Coakley and immersed herself in this work. She spent months at the State House in Concord reviewing decades-old files, researched historical documents from EPA and New Hampshire DES online, and incorporated the research of several local experts, contacts from her years of environmental consulting experience into her investigation. Some of her accomplishments from her work on the subcommittee include the initiation and expansion of well testing in the area immediately surrounding the dump in coordination with New Hampshire DES, the EPA requiring the Coakley Landfill Group to post warning signs acknowledging contaminants known to be leaching into surface waters adjacent to the dump, planned future testing of fish stocked in these adjacent body waters that are originating from the dump site, as well as the addition of a thorough investigation into the hydrogeology of the bedrock groundwater flow in and around the dump. In November 2016, Mindi was elected to the New Hampshire House of Representatives. This is when those of us connected to Mindi had the opportunity to witness firsthand her fierce determination, her insurmountable drive, and her dynamic influence. Quite simply put, Mindi is a force to be reckoned with. Once elected, Mindi set her mind to creating legislation that would proactively safeguard human and environmental health in our state. To garner support for these bills, Mindi coordinated the efforts and energy of local activists and concerned citizens like myself by co-founding the New Hampshire Safe Water Alliance. As advocates, we wrote emails, made phone calls, and testified at hearings in Concord about our personal experiences and knowledge to support these bills throughout their long journey in the State House. By the end of her freshman year, Mindi successfully had 3 bills signed into law by Governor Sununu. This accomplishment highlights Mindi's talent for building bipartisan support for issues concerning human health interests. These issues are not partisan, although they are often difficult to understand as well as confront. Mindi worked tirelessly to educate her peers at the State House, both Republicans and Democrats alike, about the fundamental need to create legislation charged with exploring the various factors impacting the condition of our public and environmental health in New Hampshire. Having watched Mindi in action for almost 2 years and having the great privilege to work alongside her, I have never ceased to be amazed by her energy, her enthusiasm, her tenacity, her intelligence, and most importantly, her character. When I met Mindi, I was a terrified mother of 3 young girls. I was overwhelmed by what I was learning about Coakley and the historical impact it has had on our beautiful seacoast. Mindy kindly pulled me into her fold. She is generous with her time. She educated me. She encouraged me to get involved and stand up for what is right, and have my voice heard. Mindy empowered me, and she empowered all of us to never stop searching for the truth and to always remain focused on what is in the best interest of the people. When I think about Mindy's influence on the many citizens who have become engaged in civics because of her call to action, the words of Gandhi come to mind. Be the change you wish to see in the world. Mindy is that change. So she's an inspiration to many. She's my mentor, and she's my friend. Representative Mindi Messmer.
Like Jillian, I woke up 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, and read the Seacoast newspaper headline that there was a cancer cluster that had been identified in this New Hampshire Seacoast. And I was asked to join the governor's task force on the Seacoast Cancer Cluster. And that is how I had the pleasure of meeting the hydrogeologist, Mindi Messmer. What I came to find out during the course of working with her on that is that actually she was the person who had identified that cancer cluster. She'd figured it out on her own, that the high incidences of cancer seemed to be a problem, reported that to the state. And when the state came back and confirmed that, and then indicated that they were not going to do anything, that was not enough for Mindi. She took it upon herself to become not just a researcher, but a whistleblower. And she is the one that released the information to the media that helped us all become aware of the dangers that are close to us. In the course of working on the cancer cluster, I came to understand that Mindi is somebody who is incredibly thoughtful, incredibly hardworking, and incredibly tenacious. And then I get to serve with her in the New Hampshire House of Representatives. And I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Rennie Cushing, and I'm from Hampton, and I'm a long-term state representative. And from the perspective of being a long-term state representative, I got to witness and see and work alongside with Mindi. And as a first-term state representative, I will tell you, she was pretty amazing. The fact that some of our other colleagues are here, the fact that we have my Republican colleague, Phil Bean, is here tonight to stand with Mindi as she declares her candidacy for Congress, says a lot about her work ethic and says a lot about the kind of respect that she has. I've sat in rooms with her. Mindi did not ask somebody if they were a Democrat or if they were a Republican. Mindi explained to them what the problem was, identified what she thought would be the solution, asked for their help, and inspired them to take action and to join with her and to follow in her leadership. When Carol Shea Porter announced that she was going to retire, I think we all looked around and realized that this was an interesting moment in history, because what we have a progressive Democratic woman who holds that seat. And from that posture, she speaks of issues that I, as a male, don't have the authenticity to speak about. Issues that are on the headlines today, issues about the condition of women in our society and the role that they play. I think this is a time that those of us who are of the male gender have to realize that where the real leadership is coming in this region, in this state, and in this country is from women like Mindi Messmer. I'm so honored to stand here and to ask her to come up and to share her candidacy with her, and I give appreciation for her. She is the real deal. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So nice to see everybody here. It's so nice to see so many familiar faces, so many people I've worked with, so many people I know. Thank you so much to all the advocates and volunteers that helped make this possible tonight. It's an amazing effort that these people put in on their own time, their own money. It's fantastic. I really appreciate it. We love you. This has been an incredible ride. A couple of years ago, I never would have imagined standing here, not for 1 second. And I want to say particularly that I'm very thankful to Dr. Tom Sherman, who encouraged me to run. And when I said to him, I'm a scientist, not a politician, he said, no, we need scientists. And so he tapped me on the shoulder. And we know that it takes probably, they say, about 20 taps on the shoulder for women to run now. So turn around and tap somebody on the shoulder and get started tapping them on the shoulder, because we need women involved. So I can't even say how much I appreciate all the support and encouragement I've gotten since I've decided to do this, or trying to figure out whether I was going to do it. My husband Mike's on a trip today, a business trip, so he couldn't be here, but I'm here with my 2 sons, Justin and Keegan. I'm so proud of them. It's so nice to be here with them. And so, as you know, I blew the whistle on the Seacoast Cancer Cluster, and it started this journey that I'm on now. After I was appointed to the task force, I took a leading role in that task force, and then also was elected to the state legislature. And as Rennie said, I had some bills passed, and Jillian, 3 bills passed, but I could not have done that without the support of all the people in this room. I mean, it was incredible. We had people really supporting all the efforts in the legislature, and it was really heartening. Our community has faced some really important and difficult issues, but we've worked together to form coalitions, to educate each other, and to support each other, and it's been fantastic. As I look back over the last few years, we've made a lot of accomplishments. We're so thankful to know the fierce women of Testing for Peas and all the advocates from all the Seacoast towns in Merrimack, Litchfield, and Bedford. We've all worked together. It's been an amazing effort. I've had a lot of help from a nonprofit called Less Cancer, who Tom was involved with, and they're an organization looking to raise awareness about prevention of cancer. And I'll continue to work with them and to continue to fight to put off so that we have less cases of cancer. I've also had some help from an organization called 314 Action, which is working with me and many people to get scientists elected. It's really interesting and really helpful. I've also worked, as Rennie said, across the aisle with many Republicans. And as long as we agree on the common goal, we do a great job working together. And I really thank Representative Bean for being here tonight. It's really amazing what we can accomplish when we work together. So a little bit of background on me. I've been an environmental scientist in the field for about 30 years, 20 of which I've had my own small business. And I started in this career back in the 1980s when women weren't really in STEM field business positions like I was. So as you can imagine, it was a little difficult. I remember going to drill rigs in the morning and trying to tell hungover drillers to put their cigarettes out so we wouldn't have a safety issue. So it was a struggle for me to get people to really recognize me and take me seriously as a woman, as a scientist, and to listen to what I was saying and to be acknowledged that I could be as good as my male colleagues. But those are different, things are different now, so that's, we've made a lot of progress. Maybe what you don't know about me is I'm a 3rd-generation union member. My grandfather actually worked at Rheingold Brewery in the Bronx and started the first labor union there in the 1940s when his friend died on the job cleaning out a beer vat. My mother was a vice president when she, of SEIU 1199 in New York City when she retired a few years ago, and I grew up learning about how she fought for nurses' rights and for, and she actually was part of a huge settlement in the state of New York for nurses at Mercy Hospital. So I'm very proud of her, but all the lessons and all the things I heard from her when I was growing up really became part of my fiber without realizing it, actually. As a scientist, I never realized it till I actually was elected to the as a representative and started working with New Hampshire Safe Water Alliance. So it's been an interesting journey for me to learn a little bit more about myself in this process as well. But now we face challenges in New Hampshire, but we also face a lot of challenges in Washington. We hear lots of things about cutting back healthcare benefits for people, for working families. We must actually extend Medicare for all, so that everyone has a right to affordable, high-quality health care. We're the only major country that does not do this for our citizens. We know many hardworking Americans are one $400 bill away from losing their house or going bankrupt, while corporations benefit from their hard work. We need to do something about this. We also see some severe cutbacks in the EPA, neutering regulations and policies and hiring industry lobbyists to fill high-level positions at EPA. And this severely threatens our public health. We see that effect here in the Seacoast. Tomorrow night, the EPA is coming here to Northampton for a public meeting at 6:30 to tell us that Coakley landfill is not a public threat. And so we need as many people as we can to get out there tomorrow night and tell them we reject that. That's horrendous. The state has even said to us that it's a public threat. So please come out tomorrow night and support us and tell them that it's not right. We have to ensure that our children and their children will have clean drinking water so we can prevent any additional cases of cancer or chronic illness. Every day we hear hateful speech and policies that seek to divide us by gender, identity, or ethnicity, and that's in direct conflict with our American ideals. Every day we hear about violent attacks on women and attempts to erode our rights. We will not stand for this. We are strong and we won't tolerate it. We're not going backwards. Over the summer, I was so upset by the anti-Semitic and anti-Muslim activity that was going on across the nation, but also in New Hampshire, that I wrote an anti-hate resolution and submitted it the first chance I got in September. What happened then was really remarkable. I had so many co-sponsors, both Republican and Democrat, up to the highest levels of the Senate, Republican Party, asked to be on that bill that I had to turn people away. And I actually had to start a permanent journal, which is an additional list of people who support it. So that really gave me a lot of hope. I think that next November, Americans will tell us what they think about that by casting their vote. The problems that we face here are very serious in the US. One thing we've learned from the 2016 election is that people are so disenfranchised that they voted for President Trump. I volunteered for Bernie. My son worked for Bernie, Justin. I'm on the Bernie steering committee, and we had a Bernie campaign worker live in our house for a while. Bernie drew the disenfranchised out, and they fueled his campaign with their small donations. They felt they had a say in the outcome of the election. We can and we must work together to bring the disenfranchised back into the fold. We also have to overcome the divide within the party and keep up the momentum we've seen in special elections in New Hampshire and across the country. With victories like the first woman mayor, Joyce Craig in Manchester, fantastic victory, 1,400 or so votes, and Carrie Lerner, who won a seat in a Republican stronghold. We have to continue to work together to elect thoughtful, independent, and bold leaders to overcome the damage and the divides across the US. But we can do this. I thought long and hard before I made this decision to run for this seat. When I looked at this, I realized there was only a few scientists in Congress, and I realized I had to use my background to fight the attacks on science and evidence-based policy to prevent needless deaths from cancer and chronic disease. I felt that I'd make a meaningful change here in New Hampshire by applying these methods and my scientific experience and my health experience in the community and at the State House. And I'm going to fight to ensure that clean drinking water is available for all Americans and take precautions to mitigate environmental causes of cancer and stand up to industry-based attacks on science and federal agencies like the EPA. This continues to happen here in the state. And I'll continue to take bold steps to overcome all these challenges. Now, I fully expect I won't know everything, but I guarantee you I will work as hard as I can to understand the issues and make the right decisions for the people of New Hampshire. I'll continue to be independent, and I'll be bold when necessary, but I need your help. From the bottom of my heart, I say thank you to all the advocates and people that have come out tonight. This is a grassroots campaign, and unfortunately right now we need a little bit of money to be able to compete. And since we're getting off the ground, we'd love to your help with donations. As we learned from Howard Dean and Bernie, all the small donations add up, and we haven't had a chance, if you haven't had a chance to stop by and donate, we'd appreciate your help outside of the table. But everybody, thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate it. I am going to run for this seat, and I appreciate all your support, and have a good time with the food that was brought in from donated from people. Thanks a lot. Thank you, guys.